Hey everyone! Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of Scythian warfare. These ancient warriors were masters of hit-and-run tactics and wielded state-of-the-art recurve bows that made them incredibly deadly on the battlefield. Riding nimble horses, they could unleash a barrage of lethal arrows with precision. But their skills didn't stop there. The Scythians also pioneered the use of scale armor, which was both protective and flexible. They fought hand-to-hand with shields and swords, proving to be formidable opponents across the steppes of Central Asia between the 7th and 3rd centuries BCE. When it came to protecting themselves, the Scythians knew what they were doing. They used single-piece greaves to guard their shins and were experts in crafting scale armor. Imagine soft leather corselets covered with iron plates arranged like fish scales, attached with animal tendons. These plates varied in size, with smaller ones around the arms and shoulders for better movement. They even made helmets and covered wooden shields with this scale armor. Over time, they started using full metal helmets, similar to those from the Cuban and Corinthian styles. Their weaponry was just as impressive. They had battle axes, maces, lances, and spears. Some of these lances were as long as 10 feet. While maces might have been more for showing off, shields and swords were crucial for infantry tactics. Their heavy cavalry used plate-covered shields, while ordinary soldiers carried lighter, woven shields. Their early double-bladed swords were about 2 feet long, but by the 5th century, they had swords that tapered in a long triangle shape. However, the most iconic weapon of the Scythians was their bow. These weren't just any bows, they were made from laminated wood, horn, sinew, and glue, making them super strong and accurate. Their recurved design made them perfect for shooting arrows from horseback. Crafting these bows was a long, meticulous process that could take up to 2 years, making them highly prized. To give you an idea of their performance, there's a story about a Greek named Anaxagoras, who won an archery contest by shooting an arrow over 1,700 feet with a Scythian bow. Much later, Turkish Sultan Selim III shot an arrow nearly 3,000 feet using a similar bow. These stories show just how effective and advanced Scythian bows were. And the Scythians didn't just have amazing bows, they also had clever ways to use them. They carried their bows and up to 75 arrows in a special leather case called a goritos. This allowed them to fire up to 12 arrows a minute. Imagine hundreds of mounted archers raining down arrows at that rate, terrifying. But that's not all. Their arrows were often dipped in a deadly poison called Scythicon, which was a mix of snake venom, decomposed snake flesh, and human serum. Even a minor wound from one of these arrows could be fatal. Some arrows even had barbed tips, making them incredibly painful and hard to remove. And now looking at their military organization, which played a huge role in their success. Although the Scythians were made up of separate tribes, they shared a common culture that unified them. Their military organization was a key part of their strength. For example, in Crimea, there's a golden beaker from the 4th century BCE found in the Kul-Oba Kurgan that shows a scene of soldiers in camp. You can see 2 soldiers with spears and bows ready, contemplating their next battle. One soldier is stringing a bow, another is pulling out a comrade's tooth, and yet another is bandaging a friend's injured leg. These depictions highlight the strong camaraderie and shared purpose among the Scythian warriors, which made them a united and resilient force. Their loyalty was strong, primarily directed toward their tribe and chief. Women also played significant roles in Scythian military and political life, contributing to their martial success. This was quite unusual for the time and gave them a unique edge. The legendary Amazons, a group of warrior women, are often linked to the Scythians. Herodotus wrote about these women coming to Scythia, eventually intermingling with young Scythian men and forming a new tribe. This group, known as the Sarmatians, spoke a hybrid Scythian language and maintained many of their ancient traditions. These warrior women hunted independently, fought alongside men, and even forbade their daughters from marrying until they had killed a man in combat. Historical accounts and archaeological findings support the idea of female warriors in Scythian culture. Appian, in describing Pompey's triumph over Mithridates VI, mentioned female rulers of Scythia, indicating that women held significant power and status. Herodotus also wrote about Tomaris, a Scythian warrior queen who defeated Cyrus the Great in battle. Archaeological discoveries further back up the prominence of female warriors. In 1993, excavators found a rich burial site in Ak Alaka on the Ukok Plateau in the Altai Mountains, where a Scythian woman was buried with objects of status and 6 saddled horses, suggesting she was an elite figure. According to Cunliffe, in Sarmatian territory, about 1/5 of warrior burials from the 5th to 4th centuries were female, and over 40 female warrior burials have been found in Scythian territory. This shows that women held significant warrior and leadership roles within Scythian society. And now let's talk about their strategy and tactics. According to Herodotus, the Scythians ventured outside their familiar territory for about 28 years, during which they defeated the Medes and were bought off by the Egyptians. However, their adventures were cut short when the Medes got them drunk and killed many of them. Despite this, the Scythians were experts at protecting their homeland, sticking to territories that suited their horseback warfare while avoiding direct battles with infantry. The open plains, steppe, desert steppe, and forest steppe of their homeland were perfect for their nomadic lifestyle, which was based on herding animals and traveling by horse. This terrain was not conducive to settled agricultural life, leading to fewer urban centers. The Scythians' greatest victories were against the Persian Empire, particularly when they thwarted the Achaemenid Empire's invasion attempts twice. When Darius I invaded Scythia in 513 BCE, the Scythians refused to engage directly, frustrating the Persians. Instead, they burned their fields and ruined wells to deny the Persians sustenance, staying just a day's march ahead. They attacked Persian foraging parties, using their cavalry to win skirmishes. Whenever the Persian cavalry retreated behind their infantry, the Scythians would ride off, continuing these tactics day and night, leading the Persians deeper into allied and desolate territories. Eventually, the Persians, worn out and unable to sustain themselves, decided to retreat. At this moment, the Scythians launched a 3-pronged cavalry attack, aiming to catch the Persians foraging. However, the Persians managed to stick to their original path and escaped back over the Danube. The Scythian strategy of attrition, leading the enemy deep into their territory, cutting off vital supplies, and using hit-and-run tactics successfully thwarted Darius' invasion. Horses were central to Scythian tactics and strategy. As a horse culture, they developed sophisticated systems of breeding, care, training, and corralling. Open plains combat was their strength, and they avoided nighttime raids to protect their horses. The Parthians, descendants of the Scythians, adopted similar strategies. Cassius Dio noted that the Parthians used no entrenchments and retreated far from the battlefield at night to avoid being caught. The Scythians likely did the same, bivouacking at a safe distance from their enemies and posting sentries at strategic points. Their horses, with their keen senses, probably served as additional alarms, enhancing their ability to detect and respond to threats effectively. Now, let's talk about one of the most crucial aspects of warfare: logistics. In battles, having enough food and water can often be the difference between victory and defeat. Cassius Dio and Plutarch tell us about the devastating effect extreme thirst had on the Roman army during the Battle of Carrhae in 53 BCE, as they faced the Parthians in scorching midday heat. But just like the Scythians, the Parthians had their ways of surviving without water. Cassius Dio notes that they were accustomed to enduring the intense sun and had developed various remedies to cope with the scarcity of water. This resilience helped them repel invaders with ease. The Scythians, too, were known for their ability to fight without food and water. Before battling Philip II of Macedon, Aeetes boasted that his people could fight despite hunger and thirst. Pliny tells us about 2 plants discovered by the Scythians, Scythus and Hippus, that could alleviate hunger and thirst. Keeping Scythus in the mouth supposedly prevented hunger and thirst, while Hippus had a similar effect on horses. Pliny even mentions a legend that the Scythians could endure hunger and thirst for 12 days with the help of these plants. Another survival technique employed by the Scythians was the use of fat. They had access to fat from the animals they herded, which was commonly used in horse diets. Similar to the practice of North American Indians, who consumed pemmican, fat mixed with dried meat, to endure harsh conditions, the Scythians likely used fat for sustenance during times of war. Healing wounds was also crucial in ancient warfare. While the Scythians were skilled in using poisoned arrows, they also had experts in toxicology known as agari. These experts played a vital role in treating wounds on the battlefield. Mithridates, a renowned figure in ancient history, even had agari in his inner circle, showing their importance in Scythian society. After the Battle of Zela in 67 BCE, it was the agari who treated Mithridates' wounds, demonstrating their expertise in medical care. And now let's dive into the battles where the Scythians showcased their military might and prowess. Due to their reputation as fierce warriors, various nations sought their military services. In 490 BCE, Saka-mounted archers fought alongside the Persians against the Greeks at the Battle of Marathon, and again at the Battle of Plataea in 479 BCE. Scythian warriors were also among those who joined Darius III against Alexander the Great at the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BCE. They even played key roles in historical events, such as aiding Pompey's defeat of Mithridates Vite in 63 BCE and helping Artabanus secure Armenia for Parthia. But the Scythians weren't just allies, they had their own share of victories. Despite facing setbacks, they won 2 battles against the powerful Parthians, highlighting their strength and resilience. Tomaris, the warrior queen of the Masashti, famously defeated and killed Cyrus the Great in 530 BCE, solidifying Scythia's southeastern frontier. Their reputation for invincibility grew when they caused Darius the Great's retreat from the north. However, the Scythians faced challenges too. They attempted to challenge the Greeks' Black Sea trade monopoly, but were defeated by Mithridates Vite and later by the Roman Empire in 63 CE. The 4th century marked the disappearance of the Scythians from historical records, as they were devastated by the Huns and assimilated by the Goths. At their peak, the Scythians controlled an impressive expanse of territory, stretching from the Hungarian plain in the west to the great Altai Mountains in the east, covering an astonishing 2.4 million square kilometers.